Currently, as everybody knows, the Browns are going to stand firm and make teams make them a major offer. So currently, the belief is that the Browns are standing pat, not going to trade him. But I think that's just a negotiating ploy. When you have a player that openly says, "I don't want to be here," that just indicates he's not going to show up to OTA. He's not going to. He's basically disconnected from the team. So eventually, the Browns are just scrambling to find the best offer. But what I think everybody recognizes is that anybody with a football mind realizes that adding a player of Myles Garrett caliber is going to be worth it. Now, the question mark is going to be how much draft capital, how much is it going to cost? Because clearly there's going to be a couple teams. And here's the dynamic. I think people that stand firm and are like, oh, the mindset of saying that Myles Garrett is the final piece to the puzzle. Well, first and foremost, it is true. The Lions have not done the best job of consistently having defensive linemen that are going to be Super Bowl caliber. Now, here's the thing. They're good. They're playoff good. They're ready. But at the same token, you recognize now that you have to look at it from the realistic perspective of Aleem McNeil's coming back from an injury. Aiden Hutchinson is coming back from an injury. It's not the romantic, hey, this is the same Aiden Hutchinson that started off the year 7.5 sacks. You hope he's 100%, but you have to take into account he's coming off of a major injury. What's that going to look like to his game? Any decline in speed, that's an advantage to the offensive lineman. Now, most people project that he's going to be fine, but Aleem McNeil, you don't know that you can't just project that everybody comes back from injury perfectly healthy, shines, and comes back to their regular self. Everybody's different. And so you're going to need the answers opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. And so the answer is always more. The answer from a perspective from this chair is always more. That you recognize now that the Eagles' defensive line has Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean, who'll come back from injury, Nolan Smith. You have some young prospects there that are young and hungry and very talented. Now, they may lose some pieces, but they're going to end up adding pieces as well that are going to probably be contributors. So you need to continue to add. And I don't worry about what does the narrative mean that if you add Myles Garrett. What it means is that you add a player that will be a player that's going to help everybody. So that will be a piece that will help you win a Super Bowl. So you don't have a ring yet. You have nothing. You've accomplished nothing in the National Football League on the grandest stage. So to add as many good players that you recognize, yes, do it. Who cares what it means? That's all side. That's all inconsequential. The only thing that should matter is, does Myles Garrett help you get closer to the Super Bowl than you are? The answer is yes. An astounding yes. And so clearly Daniel Jeremiah is going to say, do whatever you can to be aggressive. And that's what the situation is that sometimes when you're close, you take the swing. And who's going to fault you for giving up capital to swing for Myles Garrett? Nobody. You're going to get all the credit for being aggressive and you keep it moving. Who cares what it means? Yeah, you're going to acknowledge that you didn't draft well with the defensive line. Great. You drafted well on offense. You drafted great in a lot of other spots in the secondary. You can't be perfect. So no one's going to, really, in bottom line, going to care when you have one position group that's a wart and the rest are amazing. It's just the way it is. But in the end, in 2024, you did not get to the NFC Championship game. And quickly, other teams are stacking up the capital and stacking up their coaches and competing. That's how quickly NFL teams can rise up and fall. So adding Myles Garrett, in my opinion, plus, 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 plus. And any of you that are expressing concern or wondering why, it's hilarious because Myles Garrett, Aleem McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, you still have the question marks regarding what the others can do, but I would presume that Myles Garrett could make Broderick Martin better just by his presence alone. Okay, and then if you find that there's more need, you can. Hey, it doesn't mean that if you add Myles Garrett, you just stop your operation at the trade deadline next year. Add more, more, more. The idea is always more, and it's their job to figure out the cap and the fit and the coaching. That's their job. Our job is to demand the best talent show up to the Lions, whether they're drafted or they're free agent. So I love what they've done in the draft, but the free agency has been far more difficult to find players. And that's why I think that maybe there is more of a reservation, but I don't think Myles Garrett would have a chance to be a whiff in Detroit
Yeah.
as a free agent. What did you make of Daniel Jeremiah saying, yeah, be aggressive? Of course, naturally, anybody looking at it, even from the outside, is going to say, go get Myles Garrett, add him to that defensive line. It makes Terry Arnold better. It makes Ennis Rakestraw better. It makes um, Amik Robertson that much better. It makes everything better. I mean, a professional NFL player said it into a microphone. Now, it's of course maybe hyperbole, but he says when you have a great defensive line, you don't need corners. He said literally, Amon-Ra St. Brown said, you don't need corners. Now, of course you do. You need them to make plays. But what that means is that you take the pressure off them so much that they don't need to shine. They can just play free. They don't need to worry about, hey, if I give up something, it's going to potentially be damaging to this team. So I'm all for what Daniel Jeremiah said. And it confirmed. Look, of course, there's confirmation bias, but it makes football sense that Myles Garrett coming to the Lions for 2025 and 2026 gives the Lions their two best swings before you got to rebuild it again.
Yeah, and I really agree with what he had to say. I think that what his argument, Daniel Jeremiah's that is, was that the Lions, this could be a finishing piece for the Lions. And you talk about the fact that Brad Holmes wants to bring a Super Bowl championship and a Super Bowl parade to the city of Detroit. Here's your shot. And as far as what it's going to take to get him, we don't necessarily know. We know it's going to be a hefty trade package, and the Lions are going to have to pony up. But I think that when your goal is to win a Super Bowl, sometimes you have to take those risks. And we talk about Brad Holmes taking risks in the draft and going after these edge rushers and things of that nature. Well, sometimes you just have to make the bigger move and go after the guy that's done it for the last however many years as a member of the Cleveland Browns, and that's Myles Garrett. And I think that when you really look at the impact he can have, I think he nailed it. He's going to make everybody around him better. If the Lions want to continue, which I mean, I assume there's no indication that they won't continue to play press man coverage and trust their corners and their safeties to handle their individual assignments, what can make your life easier than adding the most dominant pass rusher in the game opposite one of the best young ones in the game and both on the field for 3 downs because they can take it physically? Like, there's so much to like about the potential pairing between Myles Garrett and Detroit. And like you said, the Browns have given no indication that they want to make this deal. But if things start to change and the tides start to turn, and Myles Garrett ends up somewhere that's not Detroit, I think that Lions fans are going to feel the hurt of that one. And so the second that Brad Holmes gets something he can work with in terms of an offer, I think you got to make the move, because these windows open and close. And yes, Brad Holmes has been excellent in the draft, but I mean, we can't sit here and say whoever they get at 28 is going to have the same impact as Myles Garrett. And the Lions are going to be picking again late in the draft next year. And you talk about that next year first rounder. Is he going to give you what Myles Garrett can give you right now? And the answer is no. And so sometimes you just have to pony up the draft capital and trust your intuition, and trust the fact that Myles Garrett is an established, really good player. And he can help the Lions win a Super Bowl and a Lombardi Trophy. So, yeah, I'm all in on the move. I have been, and obviously, there's some salary cap stuff to work out, but I think in the short term, Myles Garrett, it gives the Lions the best chance to win the Super Bowl, and that's what we're in the business of. So yeah, we'll keep monitoring the situation, but right now, I think that if you get an offer or you get something you can work with, the answer has to be yes, and you have to work it out, and move forward.
Yeah, the winning business, the talent acquisition business, and also the entertainment business. Myles Garrett sacking the quarterback is going to make a lot of people happy that are paying more for their season tickets. And the idea is the paying customer wants Myles Garrett, and you recognize that that's a player that I think can help. Not maybe a final piece because you probably need a couple more, but a big, huge jolt to an area of weakness. And it's okay to jump the front of the line in terms of not developing the player opposite Aiden. It's okay. Let's go do that and make it happen. And I think that it's going to be. And here's the last point. Okay, you don't want Myles Garrett showing up with the Commanders or Eagles
Correct.
because you're in competition with the teams that are going to want to compete and be better. Great teams want to get greater. Good teams want to be great. Bad teams want to get better. And what if he ends up on the Bears? What if he ends up in the division? What if he ends up with the Packers? What's that going to send to you? You're going to have a diminished fan base that is going to not have any confidence that you're doing enough to put yourself in the position to win the Super Bowl. So you're in competition in regards to fan support, and you're in competition with competitiveness. So let's just hope then that the Patriots, in their overwhelming over $100 million in cap space, can make it so that, hey, he stays in the AFC, which I doubt, but we shall see.